The fog was thick tonight. It clung to the village of Eldermoor like a shroud. Cobblestone streets disappeared into the swirling grey mist. The air was heavy, damp and cold. It smelled of wet earth and something else, something rotten. Eldermoor was an old village. Ancient legends whispered of dark secrets hidden beneath its charming facade. Secrets that slumbered within the twisting branches of the old forest at the edge of town. Tonight, the secrets stirred. The fog pressed against the windows of a small cottage. Inside, a fire crackled in the hearth, casting dancing shadows on the walls. Two figures huddled closer to the warm glow, their faces pale in the flickering light.
Do you hear that, David?
Sarah whispered. Her eyes darted around the room, searching the shadows. David, 2 years younger than his sister, tried to appear brave, but his voice trembled as he answered.
Hear what?
Sarah and David were alone tonight. Their parents had left for the neighbouring village, leaving them in charge of the cottage. They had never been alone at night. Not like this. Not with the fog pressing against the windows and strange sounds echoing from the forest.
It sounded like whispering coming from outside.
David strained his ears. At first, he heard nothing but the crackling fire. Then he heard it, a faint whisper, like someone speaking his name from a great distance. He shivered.
I think it's the wind.
He said, hoping his voice didn't betray his fear. But even as he spoke, the whispering grew louder. It seemed to be coming from the old forest, from the heart of the fog. A shadow moved past the window. David gasped, his heart pounding in his chest. Sarah grabbed his hand, her grip tight. They both stared at the window, their breath caught in their throats. The shadow moved again, slower this time, as if it was watching them. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed through the silent cottage. Sarah and David jumped, their eyes wide with terror. The sound came again. This time, it was followed by a desperate voice.
Help me! Please, let me in!
The voice was rough, filled with urgency and fear. It was coming from the front door.
Who could that be?
Sarah and David froze. Their blood ran cold. They had never heard a voice so filled with terror. It sent shivers down their spines. Who was out there in the fog? What did they want? Sarah hesitated. Her heart pounded in her chest. Part of her wanted to help, to throw open the door and offer shelter to whoever was out there in the fog. But another part of her, a primal instinct, screamed at her to run, to hide. S2, media, two people looking afraid and whispering, woman holding man's arm and looking scared, two people huddled together in fear. Don't open it, it could be dangerous.
But what if they need help?
The banging on the door grew more insistent. The voice pleaded again, closer this time.
Please, I won't hurt you. Just let me in.
David shook his head, his eyes wide with fear. He grabbed Sarah's arm.
We have to get out of here. Now!
Sarah knew he was right. Something was wrong, terribly wrong. The fear in that voice sent chills down her spine. She couldn't explain it, but she knew they weren't safe. Not tonight. They ran to the back door, their hearts pounding in their chests. As they fumbled with the lock, they heard a voice behind them. A voice that wasn't human. A voice that seemed to slither from the fog itself.
You cannot escape. The forest claims all.
It was a cold, slithering sound filled with ancient malice. Sarah and David didn't wait to hear more. They threw open the door and ran into the fog, into the cold, damp embrace of the unknown. They didn't know where they were going. They just knew they had to get away from that voice, from the horror that awaited them in the cottage. But the fog was thick, disorienting. It seemed to cling to them, to hold them back. And behind them in the distance they could hear the voice again, whispering their names.